Being a military general in RTS games and conquering vast continents of land is very satisfying, but then come the days when you get promoted and suddenly your superiors demand that you conquer an entire galaxy for them. Or else. Yeah, we are talking about Empire at War, a game that's known for its vast modding community and its own different spin on the RTS genre of games. So why am I reviewing this game then? Haven't plenty of people covered it already? You're right, they have, but I want to make a deep dive of sorts, talk about the strategy, the mechanics, everything other than the fact that it's a Star Wars game. Alright, so you got a galaxy to conquer. So how do you start? Well, like any military superpower, you need an economy to support it. Empire at War simplifies its money-making process. Basically, you have credits and that's it. No special minerals, no ore, no trading, no corruption, at least not yet anyway. Each planet has its own base income. The set income can be increased by building mining facilities. There is also no real-time base building in Empire at War, all construction is done on the galactic overmap. In most cases, what you build on the planet will play a critical role in its defense, if the circumstances lead to it of course. Different buildings produce different units. Buildings also produce their own garrison if you're defending a planet from an assault. The majority of buildings do what you expect. Barracks build infantry units, vehicle factories produce, well, vehicles, and officer academies can build minor heroes which provide passive buffs for your units. Some structures are more strategic. For instance, building a shield generator will provide the majority of your buildings with a shield that can prevent enemy bombing runs and provide cover for your units. On the heavier side, you have turbo laser batteries, which are an invaluable asset in a plan's defense arsenal. Large and powerful, these towers are a nightmare to any enemy vehicles that have dared to invade you. The space defenses in Empire at War are as equally important as the ground defenses. If you defend your planet well enough, the enemy won't even get the chance to launch a ground assault against you in the first place. The space station that you have over your planet can come a long way in helping you survive the enemy fleet. For starters, they have plenty of upgrades on which you can spend your credits. Secondly, space stations can deploy all kinds of garrison, fighters, bombers, cruisers, and if your space station is a high enough level, even frigates. Alright, these are the fundamentals. Now, let's talk about the actual planetary invasion process. The galaxy is big and the first question you should ask is it worth invading a certain planet in the first place? There are some factors to consider. While planets in Empire at War may seem all the same at first, there is actually a lot more going on the surface than one might imagine. Like any good military strategist, it's preferred that you gather some tactical information before invading a planet, especially if your armies are spread thin. If you click on a planet, you have the ability to read up some information about it. Aside from lore, there are a couple of things to pay attention to. First is whether a planet has a local population. If a local population is against you, they can rise up and work together with the enemy to take you down, which means that you might need to go through some effort and take down the civilian structures first before assaulting the enemy base. On the other side, if the civilians are allied, you can use them to harass enemy units, capture landing zones, turret emplacements. The major downside of using the local population is how pathetically weak they are. A decent portion of planets are just populated with humans sporting leather jackets and boots. The second aspect is the weather conditions. There might be some nasty ones. Let's take Tatooine for example. Tatooine has some nasty sandstorms that can wreak havoc on your infantry. Or the hell surface of Sholo, where its volcanic ash storms decrease the sight by 50% and all infantry take auto damage due to the heat. Some planets have horrible conditions to the point where repulsor lift vehicles are rendered inoperable due to electrical storms, acid rain and mud, and therefore cannot be deployed. So that new set of shiny tanks that you just manufactured? Yeah, you can't use them. However, some planets are nicer than others. For example, on Manan, your troops auto-regenerate health due to Kolto naturally being present on the planet. So yeah, pay attention to those conditions, they can make or break your invasion. The third factor is base building. Things to consider here are the amount of slots there are for base building, the planetary advantages such as whether the planet has the ability to produce capital ships, which not all planets can. Another thing to note are the bonuses that the planets provide, which include but not limited to massive discounts on specific unit types and production time decreases. Alright, now that you've decided on what planet you want to invade, let's go ahead and build up an attack force. First phase will likely be space combat. Base combat is where all the honey's at. It's straightforward, yet acting strategically is very rewarding. In space you have capital ships, cruisers, frigates, and fighters, and each have a distinct role. For example, capital ships are excellent at tearing down cruisers as well as fighting off other capital ships if necessary. You don't always have to use conventional approaches. For instance, if you see two capital ships heading your way without any fighter support, just send in a bunch of bombers their way. Bombers are too small of targets to hit, and their proton torpedoes go straight through shields. See that very annoying heavily defended space station over there? Warpin some broadside cruisers and barrage the enemy from a distance. Yes, it's a lot less entertaining, but it will save you a bunch of units. There's a lot of experimenting you can do. Furthermore, when things really get thick, you need to start prioritizing targets. So what do I mean by this? Well, if your fleet is taking a beating, you gotta work out what's causing the most damage. No pressure, just click the pause button and start checking out the hard points. Destroying a certain hard point will disable a certain function on a ship or a space station. If, for example, the shields on your ships are going down fast, aim for the enemy ion cannons. Having trouble with all those fighters being pumped out? Go for the hangar bays. Is the enemy capital ship that you desperately want dead retreating? Take out its engines and it won't be going anywhere. There are a few other things to note in space, such as asteroids. For the love of God, don't push your ships through asteroid fields. They'll die slowly but surely. And then there's also Space Nebula. It's a lot less dangerous and kind of useful at times. Essentially, it can mask your ship's ID signature. The downside is that it also disables the special abilities of the ships affected. The ground battles are alright. They're often overlooked when people are talking about the game, and I see why. They're not bad, they play well and are fun. I think the reason people overlook the ground battles so much is because in comparison with other RTS games they are very simple. They're a bit more fleshed out in the skirmish mode. Basically you got these landing points which look like command posts from the Star Wars Battlefront games. When you capture a landing point you have a set amount of units you can bring in. As an invader you can build turrets, capture sensor arrays that reveal the whole map, interact with the local population, and capture abandoned vehicle factories that can give you extra units, among other things. As a defender, you basically get to do all of the above. You can fight back the invaders using garrison units provided by buildings, or use already built units which were stationed on the planet. If you have the cash, you can invest in upgrades, which you can find by clicking on your structures. There are two factions in Empire at war, at least for now anyway. You have the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire. They have their differences, both in space and on the ground. In space, for example, the Empire generally has weaker fighters and bombers, but there's a twist. The Empire can auto-deploy a set amount of fighters via their hangar bays, while the Rebels have to manually build their ships and spend money on them. The Y-Wings for the Rebellion are noticeably more stronger than the Empire's TIE bombers. They have this ion torpedo ability which essentially does what you see them do in Rogue One. You can temporarily disable ships and greatly reduce the effectiveness. The Rebels also progress in tech differently. For the Empire, it's pretty straightforward. You just kind of build a research facility and research your way into the next tech level. The Rebels, on the other hand, are a lot more crafty. They steal technology from the Empire. You do it by sending C-3PO and R2-D2 to an enemy planet, and see what options you have. After that, you just kind of pick what you want to steal, pay credits for it, and there you go. The Empire is very streamlined compared to the Rebels. Their main doctrine is just keep pumping more guys. I mean, look, we can afford it, right? Look at all this Wookiee labor we got. The Rebels also have very good infantry. Not only do they have a dedicated unit that can take out enemy vehicles easily, but they also have infiltrators. Infiltrators travel in groups of 2 and have very powerful guns with insane range, and the ability to one-shot infantry. If you want, you can even emulate the movies. Get a bunch of infiltrators together and sneak by the enemy space defenses to perform a raid. So what's a raid, you may ask? Essentially, if you have a small enough task force, which is no more than 3 units, you can perform a raid. What that means is you get to bypass enemy space defenses and invade the ground straight on. If you win, congratulations. The planet is yours, even if the enemy has a maxed out space station above the surface. So are there any balancing issues? No, at least not yet. Even though it sounds like the Rebels have a ton going for them, things are actually pretty balanced. You just need to learn what counters what. And hey, the Empire may have a lot of problems on their hands, but they have one good solution.
Death Star construction has begun.
beautiful.
Skirmish mode throws everything it's got at you. There's even extra content that's not present in Galactic Conquest or the campaign. Many Star Wars fans will be delighted to see characters such as Mara Jade and Kyle Katarn return as purchasable heroes. In Skirmish mode, you either have to destroy everything that the enemy has or the enemy base. The maps have various mining facilities spread throughout, and you have to fight for them to increase your resource income. There are also some strategic areas that you want to fight over as well. Your main goal is to keep your base alive. What structures you have intact will impact what units you can or cannot produce. If a certain building is destroyed, you can rebuild it if you have the money. If not, then bad luck, you're about to lose. Your base is the hub for the majority of the upgrades, so you better protect it. If you're playing multiplayer, you share a base with your teammates. One can focus on upgrading and protecting the base, the other on attacking, one on economy. You get the idea. Alright, I think I covered almost everything. So why didn't I cover the campaigns? Are they bad? Well, not exactly. They have a lot of notable characters from the original trilogy, and if you love the lore, you will definitely love seeing various people from the films interact with each other. In a nutshell, there's nothing too memorable to take away from the campaign, but you know what does have a good campaign? The expansion. Released 8 months after the base game, Forces of Corruption added a whole new faction, new units for all factions, extra planets and maps, as well as all new gameplay mechanics, such as the ability to change the base layout on the ground, which is very handy. The main draw from the new expansion was the campaign that it added. This time it was actually quite interesting. The story follows Geralt of Tiber Zahn. Tiber is trying to rebuild his consortium by the means of bribery, slavery, intimidation, and by all means as long as they're illegal. There are a lot of side stories that Tiber accomplishes along the way during the campaign, but the main drive for the majority of the story is to unlock the hidden secrets of a Sith artifact. However, later down the campaign, the priorities of Tiber shift, and everything is leading up to a big heist at the end now. And what do you need for a heist? A crew. You assemble one along the way, and right off the bat you realize that everybody hates each other.
I did not have time to find the answers. I did not think you would give it away so carelessly.
Silri, I want you to listen to me very carefully. If you ever lie to me again, or hide information from me, you and every Dalthameri witch will die the day after you betray me. And I'll kill every one of those damned Rancors as well. Those orders already stand, and will be carried out whether I'm alive or not. Do you understand me?
I've heard enough!
These are actions that you will set in motion. Lie to me, betray me, withhold information from me again, and all of these things will come to pass. Am I as clear as I can possibly be?
I understand.
Splendid.
Anyways, the characters are dynamic and their interactions are believable. Like a true mobster, you get to corrupt, and boy do you corrupt. So how do you corrupt a planet? Well, first of all, you need to craft a unit called a Defiler, and then send him over to a nearby planet, and then you will see the available corruption options. They include setting up a black market to get new technology. There's also intimidation, which usually allows you to start a micro mission with objectives. Slavery will grant you the ability to conscript units from a planet's local population. If you're gonna do that, then enslave Kashyyyk, by the way. The Wookiees are among the strongest units in the game. Those are just some of the options, so what are the benefits? You get a certain amount of income from the set planet. You also get to travel through the corrupted world without having to fight through them. So now if you want to get to a certain planet real quick, you don't have to fight through the entire galaxy. Along with the expansion came a whole set of new problems, however. The original disc versions had this issue where if your PC had more than 2 gigs of RAM, the game would just not launch. Then there was the balancing. The consortium was really overpowered in the initial release. Everything they had seemed to outmatch whatever the Rebels or the Empire had to offer. I don't think I can cover all the drama that Forces of Corruption has caused. I even distinctly remember players refusing to play online matches with you if you came to play the expansion. Luckily, the developers released patches here and there, and they did solve a lot of issues. When the GameSpy service shut down, they brought the games over to Steam, and it really gave the community a big push. Speaking of which, I should talk more about the community, and what's a better way to start than to talk about mods?
The balance of the Force has been shaken.
Oh my. What is this?
Clone Wars have begun.
This is gorgeous. The mods, they're fabulous.
make it count.
I gotta get me some of this. Mods are fun. A lot of mods are just a different take on the base concept of the base game, like the Absolute Enhancement mod, which ramps things up and adds new units. Mods like Republic at War and the Clone Wars mod focus on the prequel era, with entirely new units, planets, and galactic layout. Thrawn's Revenge is another one of those known mods. It features new mechanics, a whole set of new factions and scenarios, as well as graphics. Then there is the Empire at War remake mod, which is a good way to benchmark your system. If you're a fan of any science fiction universe, be it Warhammer, Star Trek, or Halo, don't worry, Empire at War has got you covered as well. There are dozens of high quality total conversion mods, so you might find yourself sticking around for longer than anticipated. Needless to say, Empire at War is very moddable, and is a good foundation for any galactic warfare sim. I want to make an additional notice. If you're considering getting a copy of Empire at War, do not buy the disc versions or the GOG versions. The reason is that those versions are not updated. The Steam release is the way to go, as many game-breaking bugs have been patched out. Furthermore, recent mods only support the Steam release. So, is Empire at War the best Star Wars game ever? Well, certainly one of the best. The majority appreciate it for its unique formula. It's essentially 3 games in one, and the modding community just never ceases to impress. Until next time, everyone.